My 18th birthday party, October. Live out in the country in Tennessee. Dark as all kinds of fuck. Perfect chilly weather. Around 25 people all gathered at my house. We're playing manhunt. One guy runs off into the woods. Everyone else waits an hour, then hunts him with paintball guns. Plan on multiple rounds through the night. Couple rounds go by, no big deal. My 10-year-old brother draws short straw. Almost didn't let him go hide, but he begged. What could happen? We tried to find him for about 6 hours. Eventually find him terrified in a hunter perch thing in a tree. Friend who found him said he kicked him in the face and almost knocked him off the tree at first. I ask him why. He tells me that he heard me trying to find him below the perch hours earlier. He peeks out. It isn't fucking me. It isn't a fucking person. It stayed below the tree, calling his name for a few hours. Ran off when it heard us coming to actually find him. What the fuck, guys? When I was like 4 or 5, I once got locked in the girls' bathrooms of my kinder by a female janitor. It was around 12 p.m., the time where everyone had left school. Long story short, no one would hear my screams or punches to the door until an old man in a suit opened the door and said, "You have to go now, but make sure you run as fast as you can." And so, I did. There was a huge scandal because the woman that had me locked confessed that she was being extortioned by some people to have kids kidnapped. But no one ever had seen or known any man like the one I described. And I never saw him again. Was a little kid at the time, not tired or anything, and was fidgeting in my bed trying to sleep, when I heard the floorboards in the hallway leading to my room creak. I froze and looked towards the door, slowly covering my face with my blanket. I heard a deep voice go, "Should we take him?" At this point, I'm scared as hell but am making no noise, holding my breath and silently panicking. A deeper voice responded, "No, he's still awake." And I fucking went crazy panicking. I must have stayed there trying to not move for several hours before passing out. Still scared to this day. Okay, this one is not mine, but I want to contribute, so here it goes. B, another Anon. Me and my father along with my uncle and 2 little cousins, 7 and 9 years old. We go to a soccer match in my uncle's van. Adults never went to the bathroom in the whole match, and me and my cousins, didn't want to disturb them. It was a very important match, semifinals. So even though we're pissing ourselves, we don't ask for them to take us to the bathroom. Finally, the game is over, hop in the van, and head to my uncle's house. Just as we arrive to his house, my 2 cousins run into the house to use the bathroom. My father and uncle stay in the van talking about the game. Since it wasn't my house, I was gonna wait outside with my father and my uncle until the bathroom was vacant. Just as my 2 cousins enter the house and turn on the lights, we hear them screaming, and at the same time, glass breaking. We thought someone had entered the house. I get scared and stay in the van. My father and his brother run into the house to see what happened. They find the older kid curled up like a ball, crying on the floor. The little one was standing, but he just kept screaming. Father and uncle search the house but find nothing, so they ask the kids what happened. The little one has calmed down now and says that they saw the dog eating cereal from a bowl sitting in the table. Brush it off as nonsense, but there was a broken bowl with cereal on the floor. Try to get information from the oldest one, but he can't even speak. He's just tweaking very bad now. Fast forward 3 days. The older brother hasn't said a fucking word, and the small one just keeps repeating the same dog cereal shit. They hand the little one a piece of paper so he can draw what they saw. He draws the fucking dog sitting on the kitchen table in a chair, just like a human would do, eating cereal with silverware in its paws and everything. The older brother ended up in a psychiatric hospital for nearly 1 year. Growing up as a kid, my dad liked to take me out camping a lot. Oftentimes, it would just be the 2 of us jumping into his truck, driving out into some remote area in the forest, not an actual camping ground, and pitching a tent, and sitting by a fire. It was a great time for us to bond, away from the chaos of normal life. Just the two of us, hanging out with nothing else to do. Plenty of creepy stuff happened, but looking back at it now, I can see that a majority of it was all my overactive imagination of being out in the woods in the middle of nowhere. Like the time we came across an area with a bunch of downed trees, and I concocted some story in my head about a monster that roamed the forest and took them all down. There was one moment though that's always stuck out. Something about it never came off as being right, and I've never been able to fully explain or understand it. We were at a new camping area, some place we'd never been before, and after pitching our tent, we decided to go walk off into the woods and wander around. After maybe about an hour in, we broke through the trees and came across a clearing of grass. It was extremely odd in that all around us was forest, and here was just this area of grass. In the middle of it sat a small cabin. It looked all raggedy and decrepit, like no one had been there in a very long time. All around the house, besides the grass, were old rusted out car parts, big huge pieces too, which is really odd because, again, you were literally surrounded by thick woods within this clearing, and it would be extremely difficult, not to mention nonsensical, to have all this junk, especially with no visible cars. Off to the side of the house was, I guess, a canyon, not really sure what to call it. Like a gap in between the land, which had a straight drop down, but the gap wasn't that big. Maybe a foot or two. Almost like someone purposely made this little gap here for some inexplicable reason. So we walked into this area. Before we did so, it was pretty quiet with the exception of the occasional birds chirping or something. Yet, as soon as we walked onto the grass, we both distinctly heard this woman. She was yelling, pissed as all fucking shit, but what she was yelling about, I'll never know, because it wasn't English. She had a typical Midwestern accent, that I remember, but whatever she was yelling was pure gibberish. Accompanied with her yelling sounded like pounding and banging of feet and fists, and also slamming of pots around. What didn't make sense about this is you could clearly see into the cabin with the window that faced us, and yet we couldn't really make out anyone inside, or at least I couldn't. What was even stranger was the smell, or really, the lack thereof. See, the woods have a certain scent to them, well, at least I feel they do. It's refreshing, clean, woody, sometimes strong and pungent, but always a scent. There was nothing when we entered in there. Nothing at all. Like almost a vacuum had sucked it all up, and it was gone. So after this woman had started screaming at us, I obviously didn't want to be in there anymore. I was more scared that we were on someone's land, as opposed to something paranormal or weird going on. I looked up at my dad to tell him that we should probably go, and that's when he did something I'd never seen him do before. He picked me up and just ran straight into the woods. I'd never have my dad pick me up, and I'd never seen him run, ever. Maybe he saw something. Maybe he understood something I didn't. I don't know. But whatever it was, scared the shit out of him. He ran for maybe a quarter of the way back to camp, set me down, and told me to just walk fast. The entire time we didn't say anything, and the entire time, it seemed like he was about to do another dead sprint at any given moment. He kept looking back, expecting something. I don't know what. We got back to camp safely though, packed everything up, and immediately drove off. He's never talked to me about it, and every time I try to bring it up, I just get silence. For the longest time, I assumed it was just trespassing, but as I get older, I find that harder to believe. Be me, 3 years old. Wake up late one night to go to the bathroom. Almost directly across from the bathroom is a guest room with an old antique bed that is raised off the ground that you can see fairly well under. Finish taking a piss and head out the bathroom door. look in the guest room, and see a little gremlin-looking thing under the bed. Black eyes, long sharp teeth, and claws. It's staring at me. Stare at it for a minute, and get excited wanting to play with it since I'm young and didn't think anything of it at first. And it looked like a fairy tale creature. Get excited and wave at it. Then it puts its front finger out, beckoning me to come closer to it. Start to get really uncomfortable, and have a sense of dread come across me. Realize this thing shouldn't fucking exist. Run screaming to my parents' room, crying. They check the room, and nothing's there. Tell me I'm seeing things. I know what I saw. Sleep in bed with parents for a month before I feel comfortable enough to sleep in my own room again. Years later, little cousins come over to visit. They're playing in the room, and I hear one mention the little man under the bed. Freak out and carry them both out of the room in a panic and lock it up. I don't know what it was, but that story really stuck with me. Freaked me out reading it. And I'm a grown man. Be house sitting for my aunt while she's in Europe for my cousin's art gallery or some shit. Aunt lives in a sort of bad part of town, in a beautiful motherfucking Victorian built in the 1860s. Bring AR with me to house sit for a week because what the fuck would be the point if I wasn't armed? Fading in and out of sleep on couch one night. Hear window and basement shatter. Insta awake. Insta on feet. AR in hands, flashlight on. Go into basement slowly. Tactically slicing pie with light on strobe. Nothing in basement. Look for broken window or glass or something. Nothing. Suddenly, the scream of 1,000 burning humans fills my ear as if it were 3 inches away from my head. I'm talking banshee status. I freaked the motherfuck out, ND'd into the staircase and ran upstairs, out of the house, and stood on the sidewalk for a good hour. Eventually, grow balls and grab phone from kitchen and call Aunt. Is this place haunted? Oh yeah, never go in the basement if you hear a glass break. My face went. Turned out the guy that built the house tortured his wife or something down there, and beat her and neglected her until she died of starvation. Or some shit. Okay, so this happened like 2 years ago, but it kinda scared me. Be me, 22 years old, living with my parents, sister, and my little doggy. 2 years with girlfriend. She and her sister always had this kind of bad luck to attract the paranormal. They always told me their backyard was very crowded at 3 a.m. They're kind of used to it. One day, I'm in a room having a phone call with girlfriend. It's like 2 a.m. She likes to call me a lot. Start hearing footsteps and some kind of marbles rolling just above me on the roof. Freak out and tell girlfriend. Try to calm down and stay alert in case it's some guy trying to get in the house. Footsteps and marbles still out there. Nothing else happens. 6 a.m. Didn't sleep worth shit. Gotta go to work. Next days are exactly the same. It's Monday, 2 a.m. Phone call with girlfriend. Closing the backyard door and front door. Parents, sister, and doggo are sleeping. Start hearing the noises again. Nope the fuck out to my room. Get pissed and start yelling. Hey you friend, why don't you fucking show up? Show yourself, you think I'm scared of you? Nothing happens. Suddenly, my bedroom's door gets fucking smacked. Open immediately. No one is outside. Check parents' and sister's rooms. Nothing. I recently moved with my girlfriend to the big city, but last time I visited my parents' house, the noises and footsteps were still there. Not necessarily creepy, but supernatural nonetheless. Be me, obsessed with my partner, like I was under a love spell. She practiced satanic spells, but that's besides the point. She wanted to break up with me. Decided I was gonna kill myself that day. Went to take a nap, and when she's gone at work, I was gonna hang myself. Had a dream about this pretty black-haired girl that was telling me not to kill myself. She then changed to a zoomed-up rotting corpse that I couldn't look away from. She told me she died from pain relating to her throat. Face was all mangled, green, flaky, skin partially clinging on to the moldy skull, and dried out ooze around where eyes were supposed to be. Wake up fucking horrified. Didn't kill myself. I felt like I snapped out of the spell that I was in. Told my ex about the dream, but not the suicide part. Ex's face went completely pale. Asked what's wrong. That was my ex-girlfriend. She died from cancer 4 years ago. Not making this up. She saved my life, even though I never knew her when she was alive. I sometimes wonder why she helped, but I'm glad she did. Be 6 years old. Wake up deep in the night in my room. Everything is covered in a hazy yellowish mist. Sickly yellowish. It's hot, extremely humid. Mom is standing at the door to my room, bare naked, tying a shirt across the doorway, from one end to the other. Mom, what are you doing? Tells me it can't get me. She won't let it. Hear what sounds like a lion growling in the deep black of the hall behind her. She tells me she has to go now, and that she loves me. Immediately begin to cry because this is all very wrong. She turns and walks into the growling darkness of the hallway. I get out of bed and run to the door, but I see something out in the hallway. A massive insectile face with many eyes in the darkness. I wake up the next morning thinking it was all a dream. House is full of relatives, police, and ambulance. Mom died of a heart attack in the night. She was only 25 and had no family history of heart problems. Dad was sitting at the table, screaming and crying. I've never seen him get like that. Dad moved away when I was 13. My aunt and uncle adopted me. He remarried and had 3 kids with his new wife. I haven't seen or spoken to him since I was 16. I'm 27 now. Last Friday, I was getting out of work. I was in a meeting, so I was wearing a suit, which ended up being perfect. I was waiting at a crosswalk, and this lady wasn't paying attention and walked into the street. She's about 45 to 50, I guess. The street was empty in both directions, except for a bus in the close lane that the lady didn't see. The bus was coming in pretty fast, and I don't know how she missed it, but to her credit, there were some bus stops and parked cars and stuff that may have obstructed the view. Anyways, just as the bus started honking and slamming brakes, I grabbed her and pulled her back. She would have probably made it anyway, but it made a pretty nice dramatic effect. So this lady was really freaked out by the whole thing. She was sort of stuck in between thanking me and catching her breath. So, and what the fuck did this come from, I have no idea. I pulled out my PDA and said, "This is Commander Navarrete." I saved the subject. The time is 4:39 p.m. She had no idea what was happening and kept looking at me all dumb. So I said something to the effect of, "Ma'am, I need your signature to affirm that you were here and that I stopped you from getting run over by the 4:39 bus." I didn't know what she thought about the situation, but I decided to press it a bit further. I opened my PDA's drawing thing, ooh, high-tech, and asked her to sign it, which she did. I thanked her, then followed up with, "Your grandson is very important," which immediately I realized was really dumb because she didn't look like she was old enough to have grandchildren. "I don't have a grandson," is all she said. I freaked out for a second, thinking I'd just made a total ass of myself. But then I said, "You will," and gave her a sort of a wink and smile. The crosswalk light was green, and I walked off. She stood there a few seconds. Later, she yelled, "Wait!" But I was already across the street and pretended I didn't hear and kept walking. I have no idea what she thought of the whole thing, but even the idea of her thinking I was from the future totally made my day.